How do brands maintain relevance in a modern marketing world? Well, let's first of all address the position of what we call drift. So, brand drift is when an organization starts one way and for whatever reason, they start to drift away from their original vision and mission. Um, Often that can be because it's customer driven. Customer driven drift is actually good. But if you have internal executive drift where we notice when we get called in to stop drift is when they they don't want to pay for high end content. They why would I hire a photographer when I can just use just use the cleaner to do the photography on her iPhone? And that's when we see messaging drift, and before you know it, you've completely moved away from what your intended goal is. So, how to maintain relevance for a brand is to have, I think, a two-pronged approach. Number one, don't drift. Stick to your guns. If you believe in what you're doing, then other people will. The other thing is to concentrate on user-generated content. Brands are only as strong as the evidence presented towards us. You can stand there and say, my brand is number one because. That's great. We all do that. I am the number one. We do this. Finest in Australia, best in the US, greatest in the world. Good for you, mate. No one gives a shit. What we want to know about, though, is what your customers are actually saying. So when you provide a portal for good or for worse, and people are commenting on your brand, we like that. We like to see almost like a proof of concept of brand. Like, yes, this is a great thing to buy. Word of caution, if you only ever have perfect 5 out of 5 reviews, that's a red flag. No one believes you. You've got to maintain honesty. And with that honesty, you have to accept the fact that occasionally people are going to not like what you're doing. But believe it or not, that adds to your credibility. So how do we maintain relevance? Is you must stick to your guns, avoid drift. But remember, customer appropriated drift is fine, but user generated content, and I know in some industries that's hard. For example, the defense industry, no one wants user generated content. That's normally bad. And normally the enemy doesn't necessarily like your products anyway. So let's be cautious about that. But yeah, that would be my 2 cents on that. Is maintain your relevance, use user generated content, and be honest to your brand. Don't let it drift.